Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Hard Truth. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, happy 4th of July. I hope you've had a great time, had some time to spend with your family, and get some rest. Okay, I was watching Crime Circus yesterday, and it opened up a lot of new theories for me, and I wanted to check them by you. All right, so grab that coffee, that nice cup of tea as we begin our story. I was watching Crime Circus. He made a super video, and one thing stood out to me. And he was right when he said it seemed like the authorities got on Kohberger's trail immediately after the SWAT with Kopaka. And so I was thinking that maybe after Kopaka was unalived and they went in his apartment and they saw all of this ghoulish stuff, maybe they found something in there that linked all of them to the Idaho 4 case. Okay, linked Brian, Kopaka, and one or two other people. It could have been pictures, videos, snuff film. It could have been anything. All right, because when you think about it, as soon as he was swatted, they started looking for Brian. Okay, and when they started looking for him, they found out he was on his way halfway across the country. They might have thought he was fleeing. Okay, and then when the trooper reported him back that he had a white car, they were like, the white Hyundai, they were like, oh, this is the guy, this is the guy. And maybe all the wheels started turning then, okay, on the 14th and the 15th. Think about if they found something in Kopaka's apartment that really implicated Brian, even if not as the person that actually committed the crime, but being there or leaving with somebody. What is it about Kopaka's apartment that all of a sudden, they're looking for Kohberger, and then they find him, he's on the road, could be fleeing, and he's in the white car that they put out in the press release. So, oh my gosh, this has got to be him. Okay? And so if you look at the Trappy Stop video, Kohberger does look shook. He looks shook, like he realizes that if they've been in Kopaka's apartment, there's a possibility that, they discovered him. Okay, it's a long shot, but I'm just thinking the timing of it. He does look shook in the video, and that would also explain the knife sheath, because it's very likely that Kopaka would leave a knife sheath. I mean, symbolism, military, that fits him. And it could have been that Brian brushed up against that knife sheath days, weeks, months before the crime. If they were friends and he's been in his apartment, they were in the car together, maybe he brushed up against it. He had no idea it was going to be left in the house. Or, I hate to say it, it might be that Kohberger and Kopaka and two other people were right there in the house together. All right? So if we start thinking about the possibility that Brian was discovered after they went in Kopaka's apartment, okay, and start from there, the 14th to 15th, then we can kind of track the way things happened, and we can kind of come up with, our own timeline of the DNA processing and everything else. Another thing that fits this scenario is him asking if anyone else was arrested. Because imagine if he didn't actually do the crime, but he was a driver, or he went and picked him up from somewhere other than the house. I don't know. But that would make him very conscious of them watching him. Once he knew that they had been in Kopaka's apartment, he didn't know if they searched his stuff or just packed it up to give it to the family. Maybe he had his fingers crossed that they wouldn't go through his things, or maybe Kopaka had everything out in the open on display. Snuff film, video, pictures. Maybe they didn't even have to look for it. Okay? And so now, if that's the case, he's locked up, And if he tells on Kopaka and the co-conspirators, then he's gonna get the death penalty. I mean, he's going to the chair or the firing squad, no doubt. So he can't speak on that. So he might be jammed up like that to where he can't really say what happened because he was too close to what happened to really speak on it without incriminating himself. This is the feeling that I'm getting because he's sitting silent. He's not saying a peep about, this is my alibi. This is what happened. He hasn't said a word about any of that. So maybe he can't. Okay, maybe he can't. And then I was saying, you might say, well, why don't the police just tell us they found this evidence in Kopaka's apartment and this is how they fingered Brian Kohberger? That's a great question. Well, what if one or two conspirators was law enforcement or high-ranking military? Okay, maybe the missing person is the one they're covering for. Okay, maybe when they discovered all this stuff, they discovered that one or two of the people involved were one of their own. Okay, and so they can't tell us how they found Brian Kohberger, because if they do, they're gonna have to expose the people they're covering up for. All right, what do you think about this theory? What does this mean if they discovered Brian Kohberger through Kopaka's belongings? Okay, let's think about that for a minute. If this theory holds any credence, then where does that leave us with Bethany and Dylan? Okay, was Bethany related to one of the perpetrators and that's why she was left unharmed? Dylan's her friend, and so they were cleared from being assaulted. Was one of them or both of them, the girls, involved in the film? Okay, we have to put the pieces together going backwards, I think, because if you think about it, if Brian Kohberger was discovered on December the 15th, 14th or 15th through Kopaka's apartment, his belongings, then that really fits because it doesn't seem like Brian Kohberger was a suspect until then. And once he was, it seemed like they were in a hurry to get in his face. Okay? They couldn't even wait for him to get home to Pennsylvania. They had to stop him and verify that he wasn't fleeing, that he was actually going home. And then they discovered that his father was in the car. All right? This is very possible, folks. This doesn't necessarily say that Brian Kohberger is guilty, but it could tie him to Kopaka and the crime itself, and also that he played enough of a role that they may be mistaking him for the lone perpetrator, or they know that there were several people. And like I said, they can't convict the others, but Brian is the only one that can actually stand trial, and they're going to have to charge somebody, right? Might as well be him.